First, we have Crystal Tanika from Atmajaya. They are co-second runner-up of School and Varsity English Debate 2021 by Unikma. They are also first runner-up of IVET 2019 in Novice category. They are semifinalists of Purpose English Debate 2021 by UPH. They are also semifinalists of ACDC UGM 2019. Sorry. And lastly, they are also open quarterfinals of NUDC 2020. Next is Iqbal Maulana from Universitas Mataram. They are Core Education Panel of Argument Open, SEC-DC, and SEC 2021. They are also invited and breaking judge of Asian English Olympic 2021. They are also top 3 best judge Nepal and VDF Open, so they have international recognition there. They are also grand final judge of the Rosio Memorial Debate Calcutta University 2020, and lastly, they are top 3 Jofet ITB 2020 in category of independent judge. Next is Joshua Karel Rianto Putra from Universitas Indonesia, also known as Kai. They are West DC 2019 Octo finalists and also 4th best EFL speaker. They are also NSCC 2018 champion and best speaker. They are DCA of NSCC 2020 at such a young age. They're also CA of GFF 2021. They're also independent educator, best independent educator of Pro-Arms 2021, and has been invited in many big competitions such as AO, GDO, and also TATES 2021. Next, we have Katame Tami from Universitas Pajajaran, one of the best independent educator in this tournament. They are open grand finalists TATES 2021. They are novice champion of MBPDO 2021. They are semifinalists of AUI Ukapetra 2020. They are quarterfinals of Duno 2021. They are co-9 best speaker of Duno 2021, and also best speaker quote and open best speaker of TATES 2021 in terms of judging credentials. They are breaking educator of Founders Trophy 2019. Next is Muhammad Akbar Walana from Unhas, who is also going to chair this novice finals. They are open grand final judge of IVET 2012 and 2013. They are open grand final judge of JOVET 2013. They are invited and breaking judge NUDC 2011 and NUDC 2020, LDBE 2019-2020, and NHPO 2021. They are also breaking judge of UCL London Open 2019 and Birmingham IV 2015. They are champion and 3rd best speaker HBP 2019. Next is our own Ekor, Nabil Muhammad Muklis from IPB. They are novice semifinalists to International Debate Open, known as UIDO 2020. They are quarterfinalists of NUDC 2020. They are breaking an open grand final judge at Melbourne Mini 2020. They are breaking in co-best judge and also semifinal judge at Ando 2020. Lastly, they are invited and also novice finals judge of JOVET 2020. Lastly, we have Rangga Rahman from UGM. They are 6th best ARM speaker and also open semifinalist of Pro-Arms 2021. They are champion of Mercu Buana Debate Competition 2021. They are 3rd best institutional judge IFAD 2021. They are 5th best speaker and runner-up SM Debate 2021. In terms of judging credentials, they also have been invited in many tournaments such as BET 2021, IREC 2021, and also lastly Gajah Mada Debating Competition 2021. These are magnificent set of judges that we are going to judge these novice finals. Hopefully, they are going to have set a fair and also reasonable decisions and in who's going to win the novice category of this year's NOVED. I'm going to redirect the floor to the chair of this novice finals, Kak Akbar, silakan.
Okay, thank you very much, Leo. Right, am I audible? I assume yes, yeah. All right, so before we start the run, I'm going to do the roll call for all teams. So Usu C, are you complete? Can you unmute your mic and
Complete.
Yeah, all right. UNDIP E, are you all complete? Yeah, and UKSW B.
Complete, Kak.
Complete.
Okay. USU B.
Complete, Kak. Complete.
All right. All right. Good. Yep. Good. So before we start the round, I'm going to remind everyone several things. Firstly, the maximum duration of your speech is 7 minutes, 20 seconds. So when your timer clocks 7 minutes, please wrap up your speech as soon as possible. Secondly, POI is very important to maintain the dynamics of the debate. So please accept at least one throughout your speech from your opponent. And please, for the opponent, be proactive in offering the POI. Please be polite when offering the POI, or just be polite in general in any interaction you will have throughout this debate. Thirdly, pay attention to the preferred pronouns that the member of this debate state. Fourthly, because the topic can be potentially sensitive to some, so please be mindful and careful with all the arguments and interaction you would have and you would advance throughout this debate. And lastly, if you don't encounter any connection issues or don't have any issue with to be visible throughout this debate, please turn on your camera. Right, so I think, is there any question before we start the round? If there's no, right, without further ado, I would like to call Prime Minister to open this debate.
Hello, am I audible? Okay,
Yes,
my gender
you're audible.
pronouns is she or her. If you want to give me POI, you can turn on a mic. And if you okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So as human, we live in the birth lottery when you lucky as the privileged people or capable from the rich family, or even you live in your luckiness because you have the good environment, or even you have the good external factor to support you, and we glad with that, right? But the problem is the people will be put the standard on how you should be good to as the people, how many kindness that you should do in your life, ladies and gentlemen. Like firstly, how many kind of thing already you do as the people, like how much money that you already do in the you give to the orphan, or even secondly, even if it not based on the material, for example, people will value as the people how many contribution you do in the state, for example, whether or not you do the voluntary activity to help the society, the poor people, for example, and sharing what you have as the humanity, for example, right? Because we think that the big burden of proof in this debate is first is whether or not that everyone has the same access to do this, right? This is the big burden of proof that we need to prove in both sides of the house. What happened in the opening government? We want to oppose the karma doctrine. Why? Because it means that when you believe in the doctrine of the karma, it forces you to do this and make it be a parameter in your life that this narrative send you is not sent to you that you should do this and you should believe it. And this is will be happen on your life, for example, right? In the word of the society itself, you already put the standard of how that everything that every activity that you do will be reflected to you, but not that the poor people still poor because they never share anything, because or people will have mindset, oh, you don't have intention to do kindness, for example. But at the end of the day, we need to correlate it to the accessibility that they have, that I will explain in my substantive letter. That's why we oppose it, right? So what is the word that opening government envisions? We imagine the word doctrine only makes the incapable person get more pressure and judgment on society. What does it mean? Because they will get left out from the society judgment because your kindness is very lack, or even your contribution in society is very lack, right? Because we live in a world where people always, judge and see and put their ask to you on every intention or even any kind of activity that you do, right? We don't want that the standardization already value based the human have the good morality. Even if in our world, the opposition side will say that, like, firstly, the judgment is still there because it makes the people to have intention or even more motivation to do kindness, for example. But not that the status quo, this kind of motivation already there. What, for example, you as the religious people, your church, or even like your ulama already teach to you how the kindness is best good morality, as for example, or even you as the humanity, you have problem, you have tendency, you want to have the good friend, for example, you have to have the good environment. That is to say, you want to do the good thing, for example. That is to say, at the end of the day, it will be still better on our side of the house. So what will I will prove in this debate? Why we oppose it? Firstly, we need to characterize about the morality value in the context slide, right? In the context slide, it tells you how the karma, the value of karma, how many kindness, for example, how many contribution that you already in your life, for example, it is become the benchmark, or like how you should act in society, whether or not you do the pragmatism or the tokenistic way, right? It means that how you, it's easy to you as the people who have privilege, like you already have many treasure, for example, or even property to share, for example, or even when you when this doctrine already exists in society, you as the politician or even you as the person in the society community, you want to have the good image, for example, that is to say you do this kindness, for example, because you have mindset, oh okay, I already do the good thing, for example, people will have mindset that I am the good people and I will have the good feedback in current in next future, for example, I get elected by the society, or even I have many kind of many people will like me as the human, for example. But not that we need to correlate it in the morality in the morality in the correct way. What does it mean? That morality in the correct way, it is about the principle whether or not you do it based on intention and also based on your capability, right? It will be evil if the opposition side of the house aware that imagine people should do kindness even if you don't have capability, because for example, as the poor people like Ethiopian people, people in the Ethiopia that they already getting starving, for example. But in the doctrine of this morality, or people will say that these Ethiopia people will never improve their life. It is because they never do kindness. They never try to have intention to do the kindness. But before I go further in any POI,
CO.
yeah, CO.
Why do you count someone goodness in the form of quantity? Why not in quality? Thank you.
Respond to the question opposition, we already tell the clarification. It's not based on the material or even like money, for example, but in terms of your contribution as people, like your contribution to kindness, like how you care to the other people, for example, or how you do volunteering activity, for example. But comparatively to the people who don't have capability, like poor people, who they only just can focus to themselves as poor people, for example, only go to work but not really put intention to the other people, or like to the orphan that happen in the world. But the comparatively that happen in opposition side of the house, you already do the judgment in very beginning. It's not only because the material, but you already judge them because they never care in very first place. That is to say, they never improve their life. This is that happen in opposition side of the house. That's why we oppose that, right? So in the morality value in status quo, it is, we already tell you the principle of the lucky or even privileged people, right? Whether you as the privileged people in very beginning, or even like your external factor already support you, like when you have the live in the good environment, for example, not in the war environment, or even you live in the good as the have natural research, for example, so it's easy to you to start everything, to set everything. But comparatively to our side of the house, we need to correlate it to the people who is the minority, for example, or even like to the poor people, or even don't not only because of they don't have intention, but it is about how in very beginning they only very only struggle to their life and focus to their life, even they really need to the help, for example, in very first place. That is to say, the doctrine will be unjustified and evil to this kind of people we try to propose.
Thank you very much for that fine speech. Now we proceed to the opening opposition. I would like to call leader of opposition to open the case from their team.
Check, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, wait a minute, setting up my paper and timer first. Wait a minute, before I start my speech, aku izin ambil minum bentar ya, Kak.
Okay. For all the debaters, can you drop your team's speaking order through the chat box, because the outcome would like to know the speaking position for all the teams participating in the grand final. Thank you.
Okay. Am I audible? Okay, I'm audible. Prefer gender pronouns. There are no such specific things. Anything is fine. POI preference through chat box, please, because I don't like my speech are being interrupted. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2. Oh wait. Oh my god. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The only characterization coming from opening government is that karma is that burdenful, even for the unprivileged people, that they don't have any capability to begin with, right? But they never try to really characterize what is karma to begin with, right? Because under opening opposition, we would like to champion those characterization by saying that having a good deeds, it doesn't necessarily for you to to being contributive to if you are not capable, then you are not forced to contribute to the people around you, to the society around you, and so on and so forth. It doesn't need to become things like donating money or doing voluntary things and so on and so forth, right? Because we say that doing a good deeds can coming from even the smallest things, by not offending other people, by not harming other people, by not doing crimes on the other people, and so on and so forth. We say that is already enough for you to having a good deeds to begin with, right? And also the good deeds might also coming from you by working hard for your family and living, if you are coming from unprivileged family, so you are responsible for your for the family that you have created. You are responsible to giving food, to working hard for your family, for your children, so they can have a better future than you. It's already a forms of you to doing a good deeds in the end of the day. Secondly, we say that society right now is not that taken for granted. The society right now is already progressive. They also already acknowledge that some people might not capable to do this or certain things, and that they also need to help these certain people in the end of the day. That's the reason why donation are exist. That's the reason why there are also help coming from not only society that are having a lavish life, but also society that are having living in the middle class society, but they still have the good intention to help those unprivileged society in the end of the day. So we say that society is that rational. They will not try to impose certain burden for the people that are not capable in the end of the days, right? So we say that the whole justification coming from the opening government in itself is invalid, because our society is that progressive, and we say that those good deeds should not only be counted from the from the quantity or from the big things in the end of the day. Our stance is clear, that we would like to support karma as in status quo, that we would like to embrace people to use it as well, and to remind other people, especially people surrounding their or even in their family, to doing a good things and to avoid bad things in the end of the day. We will likely to also teach our children and young generation to also aware with the existence of karma in itself. So in the end of the day, they would like to prevent to doing those certain bad things in the end of the days. Two contributions coming from opening opposition. Firstly, we say that why karma is the only effective way to build people's morality. Secondly, why even if people do good things only based on karma, and it is not sincere as what the opening government try to give the burden toward the opening opposition, we'll take that bullet as well, and answer it in my second argument. Now, going to my first argument, we say that karma in itself gives the sense of people of fear, because if you do bad things, then you will also feel bad things. You will also get bad things in your life. It doesn't necessarily means that if you are kill people, then someone will kill you, because the form of returning of your good deeds or bad things is not always in the same ways in the end of the days, right? For example, if at the moment when you are helping people to across the way, then it doesn't necessarily means that people will also help you to across the way, but there are maybe other people that will also help you, but in a through donation and any other forms that might also come back and as the feedback of yourself in the end of the days, right? We say that this kind of karma is not only access for your next life, but also access in your current life. It's also having influence inside of your current life to begin with, right? We say that having this kind of karma in itself will prevent people or hamper people to do the bad things, because inherently no one would like to get a bad condition, or no one would like to trap in the bad or in the danger situation in their life in the end of the days, right? So we say that this kind of thing will hamper people to do bad things, because they know if they do this, if they do bad things, then they will also get the bad things in their life in the end of the day. Comparatively, under governments of the house, if there's no this kind of concept, then that only reliant on the punishment to begin with, we say that it is still ineffective in the end of the days, right? Because we also need to characterize that the bad things that you do is not always on the ground in itself, right? There are some people that do, bad things by killing people or stealing the things coming from other people and so on and so forth. But there's also people that do bad things on the underground, for example, like by hacking other people's account they are not, being acknowledged, being ketahuan, for example, until in the end of the day. And we still say that this kind of thing doesn't have a tangible punishment in the end of the day, right? Because no one will know you anyway, no one will know acknowledge your bad things in the end of the day, so no one will punish you in the end of the days. But we say that actually, this kind of things, this kind of concept in itself is really important for you to being a virtuous, even in your smallest thing in your life, because people purpose, if on the living in itself, is to having a great reincarnation in the end of the day, and having and go to the heaven in the end of the day as the parameter for you to living your life to the fullest, right? Because no one having a dream to go to the hell and so on and so forth, right? We say that this kind of thing is also a good concept if what the road coming from opening government is that they would like to have only having the doctrine coming from religion that you should do the good deeds and so on and so forth. But we say those religious teaching won't be effective as well if you are not having this kind of karma concept in the end of the days, right? Because sometimes those kind of good deeds that in your religious teaching might not affecting you tangibly, and you cannot see the harm, or you cannot see the harm if I'm not doing this kind of good things, if I'm not doing this kind of bad thing, and so on and so forth. Because if you're only following the religion things, then at the moment when you are having these bad things affecting in your life, you will only think, oh, maybe God is giving me a trial, for example, and so on and so forth, right? Comparatively, at the moment when this karma are exist, then those religious things are much more likely to be tangible. The harm is much more tangible, and you will also think that, oh, so this is the bad things that I will get if I do bad things too. And here's the moment when your religious teaching makes sense, because because in the end of the day, those kind of religious thinking, the things you need to be virtuous, will only exist under the opposition side with this concept in the end of the days, right? Because as a human living in this world, we say that having good morality is very important, because you're not living by your own, because there's also the existence of other people that live, and they also have the right that you also need to respect in the end of the day, right? So we say that this is the only way that is very effective for you to having a good morality, to building good morality, to finally being a good and contributive society, that much more likely happening under opposition side, not in opening government. Proud to be speaking in grand final. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that fine speech. Now we are moving back to the opening government. I would like to call Deputy Prime Minister to continue the case from their team.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. My PI preference is type through chat. If I say yes, you can unmute yourself. Oh, gender pronouns, she, her. Okay. I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Before we are going to move to my rebuttal, let us clarify what actually matters in this debate. First is that the problem in this debate is not only about the karma itself, but it's only the doctrine of karma itself that previous speaker have already told you. This doctrine means that in the narrative that society will believe and glorify this kind of doctrine, and this doctrine already be fiat that you should do. This is the problem that exists, so that's why we oppose it. Second thing is that we want to redefine what is the define of morality. We think that morality is include two things. First is that no ill intention, and second is that you still have protection, because we think that people, especially in many religious teach, tells you that you have to fear to do this, as long as you don't need you don't harm people, not to plunder other people. It's the good morality anyway, and we need to engage to this kind of like poor people to do charity, but at least never judge people, and we say that's enough. This is the correct one, rather than doctrine that under the opposition side of the house has already taught you. And we would like to prove why under our side of the house it's not including two parameter that we have already set, which is like there is no ill intention, and there is still have the protection of each individual to survive their life. We think that first we need to my rebuttal will be integrated to my argument. We think at first we need to characterize what is the nature of human being, because we think that all of the things that being brought by the opposition side of the house, saying that you need to do this because of like doing to other people and so on. We think that at very basis we need to characterize what is the nature of human being itself. We think that we familiar with the idea of human just being human. We think that we have those kind of negative emotion, we have anger, we have pettiness and so on, simply because they are affected by externalities, which is, for example, they are being pressured because of like society activities on social spectrum, especially people in that have no privilege. So this shows you as human, not all people will always have good feelings, because they don't want to do good. People don't always have the good feelings to do good intention and so on, simply because they don't. It's not because they don't want to, because at very basic, not all of people would like to have this kind of good feelings. So related to the info side, if the karma itself be the doctrine that construct one's morality, we think that the moral things will be relied without even considering as human. You might face those kind of things that that you are affected by with the externalities, where your intent and action not always based on the fully consideration, but also affected by emotion from the society that actually broke you. So under our side of the house, we also consider that the nature of human itself will likely to not always that have good feelings. So under our side of the house, we also more consider about the individual itself. Second thing is that why something is would like to be more unique under our side of the house. First, that we would like to, if under our side of the house, we would like to erase the barrier of emotional capacity, because we think that it's true that under the opposition side of the house, they will always feel fear. We think that those kind of fear itself will give the people to be to trap in the guilt trip of the idea of karma construct people morality itself. What does the guilt trip under outside of the house means if you implement these things? We think that on the opposition side of the house, people would always trap in the second talk of like doing anything, because they always maintain to anything that based on the consideration of karma itself. So we will like to question on the opposition side of the house, if they implement these kind of things, how then they make sure that while those doctrination is exists, people would like to still work happily under the side of the house. Because when you give this kind of doctrination, you always give the standard that you might also sacrifice yourself towards the doctrination itself, and forget that as a human you also need to need to consider about yourself. To compare under outside of the house, why this without this doctrination, it could be more people would like to still do good things. Why this is true? Because we think that at very first, it's also natural human being that people need to engage with other people. People need to maintain the good relation or good image to other people. This is why under outside of the house, people still can do good, because they know that the impact is also good without any doctrination and so on. So it's would like to link on under the parameter that the opposition side of the house that has already bring this debate, that tells that the society is already progressive. So we think that as individual itself, they also more progressive to rely on how to engage to the society. We think that second things is that why without the idea of doctrination itself will be better under outside of the house. First, that we need to relate what my PM has already brought to you, why it's better under outside of the house, that you don't need to first compare your karma with other people. Because if you think that even if that you could be able to give, you still like you still can consider the idea of survivability that not all of people would like to have at the very beginning. Because when it's applied under the opposition side of the house, people will like to compare the karma between one people to each people. That when the doctrination is still exists in the society itself, people more likely to see what is the things that you do. So people will like to more count whether or not you do this kind of thing as something that will like to value you. So in their side and our side of the house, you don't need to compare the karma itself, because we think that even if under our side of the house, when you are want to give on, when you are as a human want to engage to the society itself, you still consider with the idea of survivability itself. So we think that in under outside of us, people will like to more engage because they know it's not only based on like quantity that people will like to see in the status quo itself, but more than that, people will like to be more into quality as what they are capable to do. And under outside of the house, what is the output that people will like to be more engaged, because they feel that this kind of things is that more related more relatable towards their situation and their condition. Because we think that under the set of laws, if people like to be doctrinized about this kind of doctrination, we think that it's true that people will like to be engaged, but that's not like to fully based on their consideration, because they only think about based on things that might not relate on their survivability and so on. So by that we brought to propose. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that fine speech. Now we move on to the opening opposition. To continue the case from their team, I'd like to call Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Hi Kak, can you wait for a while? Because my teammates lagi ke kamar mandi sekarang.
All right, okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Wait. Okay, gender preference, your, her, and POI preference through chat box. And yeah, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we see that the opening government never actually clearly explained about which kind of thing that they want to achieve in this debate, right? They want to make society have good things, for example, sense to create the good things, or what? Because in the end of the day, until their second speaker, they never actually mentioned to us about the, the current situation in our status quo, on how they will guide the society to create more good things and so on and so far, on how they control the behavior of the society and so on and so far. And they don't mechanize things that they want to achieve in this debate. They only claim that the karma in itself to people who are only going to create, sense of gap from the privileged society and underprivileged society, and also create sense of judgment, but they never actually explain about those kind of things. Hence we say that those kind of claim that coming from the opening government, it cannot stand in the end of the debate, right? Here's that we want to champion in this debate. We, as an opening opposition, proudly say that we will create a better sense of people to create more good behavior, and also we want to control after you do bad things. For example, you will did a certain action that will also contribute your future life and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, opening government claim that the nature of the human, it's not always have a good feeling to create certain thing. Yes, exactly, because of those kind of human who are not exactly have the sense of the create the good things. Exactly, that the karma, it's really playing certain important role to begin with, because this is the exact reason on how then they will need the karma concept to remind people, for example, to avoid to avoid bad things and need to commit good things and so on and so forth. But before coming to my substantive, right, there's several response towards the opening government. First, they say that it's not fit to get good karma because of the lottery, because of the different of the lottery of birth that coming from the society. Ladies and gentlemen, the misunderstanding about the karma concept, it's very like in the opening government. Why? Because we say that the karma, it's the one who can only value fair play, ladies and gentlemen, because it is can fit to even underprivileged society, because for example, like poor people, they don't need to create so much donation, for example, to help to even create the charity, for example. But simple thing, for example, like they want to spread kindness, it's also create such a good things that also can create the sense of feeling that will be paid back in their karma next life, for example. And also, the opening government claimed that it will sacrifice, their needs to create kindness in the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, we say that the society nowadays are very rational to know that which kind of thing that they have to do and which kind of thing that they have to avoid. Ladies and gentlemen, we say that the kindness, it's not always to, like donation in a very million or even $billion to help certain people, but simply because of you are aware with certain people, for example, you are voice out the right of the minorities, it's also created a very good impact in the society. So the basic thing that's coming from the opening government, they talk about it is very hard to begin with to do certain good things because of no layer of society have the same contribution, not have the same access. It's very well, and they can stand their argument in this debate, right? But I'm going to extend my first speaker argument by brought to you that why karma can contribute to protect to watch our society behavior. We say that, ladies and gentlemen, that karma is likely not about the only retribution, punishment, or even the reward, but it's a reaping of the harvest of the hour itself that we are planted through our thought and our behavior. We sow seed that later that we gain, for example. So the value is when karma comes present in our life, it is because we are being given the opportunity to reap our harvest, right? So it's our opportunity to make a choice in life, then chose to, and then those that cause to be a karmatic, a crucial in the first place, right? We know that the karma was consequence of the past action and the opportunity for healing and balancing in the present. And why it is very important in a human life? Because it will preventing chaos, bad action, and certain things that can contribute also bad impact for the whole society. Hence, we should protect people to do bad things or actions, right? This is exactly karma plays such a great role when people should think first. Before they commit something, for example, they will have to make sure first it is going to be bad or not. They will have sense of afraid to do bad things, for example, because they will get payback later and so on and so forth. Um, of course, in the status quo right now, it's already having a regulation, for example, and so on and so forth. But we say that it's not enough, ladies and gentlemen, because of what? Regulation assume can control our behavior coming from the police regulation, for example, government regulation. But we say that it's not that tangible to prevent certain bad thing, because like the regulation is not fair, for example, to even underprivileged people, ladies and gentlemen. Hence, we say that that karma is going to be the only way to make sure people to not doing bad things and so on and so forth. Why the protection of the behavior is actually very important? Because I already said to you that when people actually already aware about create certain things to watch the behavior, the word it's more creates a sense of people who are more tolerate, for example, and the issues that talk about the minorities and disrespectful things will slowly solve because of people already aware to commit good things because they want to get their better life in the future and or even their afterlife, and it's create sense of preventing certain bad chaos in the long term effect. So what is the character? So what is the characteristic of the people nowadays? Is that they need a clear, tangible mechanism to value their action or their contribution, because exactly the important role of the karma exists because people will be attracted to create good things because they because of the rationality that they want to gain better in the future or even their afterlife. Like so, panel. Even if we're not science, but at least that they have good intention to help the vulnerable people. At least they have a contribution to people you need help as a victim of birth lottery and as a victim of unjust country system, for example. And it's also related to hamper privileged society, not to harming the underprivileged because of the karma concept that already exists in our status quo right now, right? So we say to you that because of the statement that I already said, and also bring with coming from my first speaker, we're very proud.
Right. Thank you very much for that fine speech. Now that concludes the opening section of this debate. Now we move to the closing section of this debate. I would like to call the member of government to open the case from closing government.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get to my argument, there are several rebuttals toward the opening opposition. First thing first, when they say to us that people will if there are no karma narrative, that people will do bad things and so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. First thing first, I think it's not true at the very first place. Why is that so? Because there are still the counter narrative that if you do not follow the God's rule in the holy book and so on and so forth, you will be punished in the hell and so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. And the next thing I will explain to you, it's not likely if people do bad things, because in the current status quo right now, there are a criminal justice system, there are a social sanction and so on and so forth, that we believe this kind of CGS and also social sanction, the harm is real, ladies and gentlemen. People will staying in the jail for years and they will did better and so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. But there are a social judgment that burdening your mind at the end of the day, that people will that's why people this kind of punishment is still progressing, ladies and gentlemen, to create a good to create a great punishment for these people, ladies and gentlemen. The next thing I will explain to you, compared to the karma, ladies and gentlemen, karma is not effective. Why is that so? Because there are no proof. No one ever feel that. Because of that, we believe that this karma idea is only get rejection from the society, right? And the second thing, when they said, the society is rational enough. Yes, we agree that society is rational enough in this current status quo right now. But if the poor people give other things besides the materials, it's not favorable for society that really materialistic in this capitalistic world, right? Because of that, at the end of the day, these poor people still less credit, ladies and gentlemen, because the society only impose material rather than the other things, ladies and gentlemen. And the last thing, I will explain to you. Let's see the opening government cases, ladies and gentlemen. Opening government cases bring about the poor people that cannot fulfill the standard. They say to us if the if the government only if the opening government only play in the narrative that they cannot fulfill the standard because they are poor, because they are unprivileged and so on and so forth, let CG in to take the motion in what spectrum, ladies and gentlemen, whether they are minorities or not, it is harming, ladies and gentlemen. Because to that we can see in the opening debate, we can conclude that opening debate talking about on how people can fulfill or not this karma, ladies and gentlemen, fulfill this fulfill this standard. In my team, we will bring, even if they can fulfill this this standard, it is still harming, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will explain to you first before move to my argument. I will explain to you how this doctrine work, ladies and gentlemen. This doctrine work, they influence and changing people perception, ladies and gentlemen. And I will explain to you why it is not suitable in the current status quo right now. Because at the very first place, everyone have different background, and with the doctrine, people will always see all of your action based on that doctrine, ladies and gentlemen. Because so that I will bring two argument. First thing first, why karma is harming with undermining one's happiness. The second thing, the karma doctrine change the way of people perceive God, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, first thing first, I will explain to you why karma is harming that. Yeah, they undermining one's happiness, ladies and gentlemen. This kind of doctrine is really dominating and very influencing of the people a lot, ladies and gentlemen. As the opening government said before, there are several standards that people trying to fulfill this, ladies and gentlemen. And we believe the standard is really harming for people, ladies and gentlemen, because people choose do this good deeds to avoiding karma, ladies and gentlemen. People will always sacrifice their happiness for other. There is no more self-happiness idea, ladies and gentlemen, because at the end of the day, we should distribute our happiness to other people. I will explain to you why it is harming, ladies and gentlemen, because when we should always distribute our happiness to the other people. At the end of the day, we can enjoy our life, ladies and gentlemen. We are full of burden that my life is only for the other people, ladies and gentlemen, and no time for you to find your happiness, ladies and gentlemen. Example like LGBT community that will curse by the society because they cannot follow the good deeds parameter in the society, because they can become normal parameter in the society, ladies and gentlemen, and at the end of the day, they can enjoying their life, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end of the day, what happened, ladies and gentlemen, it will create a bad competition on pursuing good deeds, because they never prioritize their self-love and only prioritizing their communal needs, ladies and gentlemen, because that it is harming for individual happiness. The next thing, before my argument, yes, POI.
But what is the value of your happiness if it's harming other people? Because the karma that already, the good things that you all need to do is to be responsible to your family as well.
Yes, as I said before, that there are the counter narrative, there are also the other mechanism to punish people, ladies and gentlemen. So because of that, we believe that happiness, the self happiness is not hurting the other people, right? Okay, let's move to my next argument, ladies and gentlemen, on how this karma doctrine changed the way people perceive God, ladies and gentlemen. With the doctrine of karma, it will create an idea that, I will determine my own destiny. If I do kindness, I will have a bright future, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end of the day, what happened, ladies and gentlemen? It will erasing the narrative that the power of God that determine destiny, and God will be a powerless entity, ladies and gentlemen. What happened? Why it is important, ladies and gentlemen? It will create a different way of people to perceive God, ladies and gentlemen. Because at the very first place, the idea of God is give people hope, give people who unprivileged hope, ladies and gentlemen. And the idea and when the narrative karma is there, the idea of hope is vanished, ladies and gentlemen. There is no opt-out mechanism for the suffer people, ladies, the unprivileged people, ladies and gentlemen. Example, the victim of crime that full of pain. Example, the victim of rape, ladies and gentlemen. The poor people, the minority people, ladies and gentlemen. They will think that, the universe is not fair. Even if I can fulfill this standard, I think the universe is still not fair, ladies and gentlemen, because the misery and the suffer of my life is cannot change, because the only one that can change my life is only myself, and God is powerless, ladies and gentlemen. Because of that, what happened, ladies and gentlemen? There is no hope in the society. There is no hope for the society to change, and they only believe that this circle of suffer is only continuing in my next life, and we believe this is harming for the society, ladies and gentlemen. Because at the end of the day, what happened? This kind of this kind of a narrative is really forcing these people to to staying in their life that suffer, ladies and gentlemen. Because of that, I proud to propose. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for that fine speech. I would like to remind everyone for the remaining speakers, because the last speech was 30 seconds over. So please be mindful with your timing. It clocks 7 minutes. It means you need to wrap up your speech within 20 seconds. Right. So to open the case from closing opposition, I would like to call member of opposition.
Can I have 1 minute, Kak?
Yeah, sure.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, so my POI preference is just unmute yourself, but I will take it at 4 or 5. That I will ask, but if I forget, just remind me, please. And my gender pronouns is he or they. I will start my speech in 3, 2. I think it's very clear that all benches want to solve what we call an injustice in the world, right? And exactly because of this kind of injustice, the karma will become form or one of the principles that will be used to face this kind of injustice that already happened in status quo. That will be explained in my substances. Number 2, I think none of the team in this debate explaining about how the existence of karma, how it related to the religion community, how it related to religion teaching or something like that. That's very important, because when you're talking about religion, one of the unique value that talk about religion must be the karma itself, right? When this karma is a system that created by someone or something that is really that big and have the omnipotent power to create justice in the world itself, that is become the main identity of the closing opposition in this debate. And let's talk more deeper in the cases from the government team. Number 1, I think when the closing government talk about how karma is not tangible, exactly because it's not tangible, people won't have any expectation to it. People who don't know what will happen in the future, they don't have any expectation, right? They will think that, okay, what I do today will be payback in the future, whether it's in the form of reincarnation or in the form of a good life or something like that, right? I think this kind of thing will be more important. But just take a case in the side of the house when this kind of karma even not exists, is they don't even know what will they get in the future when they do good thing, or what they do bad thing, what will happen when it's just when they only talk about how the law exists. When you talk about how the law exists, it's not even enough, because there's a lot of people there is not enough and not interest and satisfied with the law exists, right? Because not a lot of reason whether it's not able to fulfill or give a happiness to you or something like that. Number 2, they talk about how this kind of poor people still like or something like that. I think it's time with the opening government benches. Number 1, they're talking about how this kind of karma exists. It's not based on the quantity of someone, on the material. It can be quality. Just imagine how a politician that help someone, white people, will of course get a less karma, a good karma, rather than when they help that minority or the colored people, right? Because this kind of quality and the value is exists in our side of the house. So it cannot you just define this karma should be in the form of quantity. Because you as a poor people or a low economic people, you still can help the other people, whether you are doing goodness like just smiling or at least you're not hurting other people. I think it's already more than enough. Number 3, I think when they talk about how erasing the determining of God, exactly in their side of the house, when the religion is not having any karma, they will create irrationality. They don't understand why their life will be, what the religion value is it. If you do good in there, what I get, then I do bad thing then what I get. There is no any explanation coming from the religion itself, right? And then people will start to questioning about the religion, about the God itself. Do God really exist? So he led me to suffer in this moment. He led me to born in this kind of war zone or something like that. That's very problematic. They will start to God blaming, they will start self-blaming, something like that, and there will be no gratitude. They won't have any hope. Exactly what happened in government benches. And then when they talk about the opening government, talk about how it create a bird lottery or something like that, justice for the minority, I think it will be integrated with my speech method. Let's talk about the first thing. But before going there, I think the opening of position do a great thing about how it influenced the individual to do good thing. But I think still not, because when you're talking about karma, it should be related to religion teaching or something like that. That will be more beneficial in the future, right? And it will be the burden of causing opposition to do that. Let's talk the first thing about how the characterization of the religion community, and how the doctrine and how the measure of the doctrine. First, religion purpose is to create kindness, peaceful, and to against riot, right? And then this kind of religion community is very big. The influence in the society is really that big. That's why it's very important to create this kind of karma, because or to support this kind of karma, because it have the related to the religion community, right? And then how this kind of doctrine measured. In this case, is based on karma. Karma is a principle that defines someone action and the output. You do good and then you get good, and vice versa. Which the principle good or bad, it can be general value like how killing or teaching or cheating is bad, or sometimes can be inserted like a social habit, or like in Arab, when you should wear hijab simply because there's a lot of sand in there to protect yourself from the heat or something like that. Right? That's how it construct and influence the in morality of someone, is by creating and influencing someone in narrative, in individual or the society about how cause and effect on the action. Then why is it good? Number one, it becomes someone parameter to do good or bad. Number two, it create a reason why people don't have to do good thing, because because in their side of the house there will be no motivation for them to do so, because they already rely on the sympathy. Number two, the influence of the external is pretty big, that connect and relate to the status quo contextualized. They also like an opening debate. Number one, let's talk about the birth law trade with class with opening government, also mentioned by the opening opposition, but they only mentioned about how it create feeling and to live. I think it will also prevent people in our side of the house. It will prevent people from God blaming or self blaming itself, because when you're born in a war zone and you are dead for that, don't you think you are suffering, don't have any enough food, and then because the karma is not exist in their side of the house, they will start to blame the existences of God. They will start to blame themselves for not able to do anything, right? But in our side of the house, there will be more acceptance, because they think karma exists. In the future, there will be a payback, whether in a good reincarnation or something like that. It gives hope for these people. At least they are not that suffered because they feel hopeless at the end of the day, right? It also create awareness. There is some system that is very big and very important, whether it's in the form of God or something like that, and several religion, right? It means that will be, but before going there, I do POI. Count one, count two, count three. I think there's no POI. And then let's talk about how it create an omnipotent thing, right? It means there will be an existence of a God that is very important. Means that they will be aware that in the status quo, they are living in a world that is very unjustified, but there will be an omnipotent actor that is really that justify, will give them a payback and will give them happiness. At least in our side of the house, when this kind of acceptance exists, there will be no self blaming or the God blaming, simply because they know in the future they will get a good thing. They suffer right this time because they have to do a good thing in the future, or how they are understand about what they have done in the past. That's what I have to get this kind of thing, right? And this kind of acceptance will be better. And then talk about how suffering in capitalist work is. When you're talking about capitalist work, it will be very suffering because you are forced to work like that, right? But the existence of karma, when you know you work hard for your family, at least you are understand that the payback will be for your children to get a better education in the future, or a better life, because you do a good thing for your children. But and also about how the last law that exists in the side of the house and not fulfill the interest of individual. That's why the karma exists. At least they don't want have to fully attack the law itself. They have an expectation of the karma. But when karma construct the morality, it gives a clear parameter to someone to live. It gives motivation to someone to do things. It also attract people to do good things, simply because like talk about how reincarnation, it give you a good life, means that you will be attracted because everybody want to have a good life in the future, right? That's why they will be more insignificant in chasing this kind of good life in the future. And another explanation about how this kind of morality can influence the religion and the point of teaching will be explained by second speaker that we brought to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that speech. Now we, to close the case from causing government, or to call the government web.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Let me set my timer. Give me a second. I will start my speech. I will start my speech in 3, 2, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty unclear on how the opposition benches really portray what is the good intention and also good deeds in the end of the day will be manifested, right? And also they also play only in the best case scenario where people will do good without they telling about like how people in the minority, for example, who they need to sacrifice their good feeling or maybe good happiness just in case to fulfill the society standard on how the morally goods been determined or parametered in the current status quo, right? Therefore, at least in the closing government, we already explained to you on how in the end of the day this kind of matter can be catered in terms of their feeling, for example, on how their emotional if in case, for example, they emotionally burdened because of this kind of standard, and then it can be compensated because we do not rely on the karma doctrine that been imposed to society. Imposed in the society for the people itself, right? Before I go to the clashes, why in the end of the day causing government it's been this debate, I will give several rebuttals to the opposition benches. First rebuttals will go to the opening opposition. The opening opposition case mainly will talk about like how they say to you on how karma in the end of the day can this doctrine give the sense of fear of for the people. Therefore, they will afraid to in order for them to, for example, have a good and also good intention also deeds in order for them to live a good life in the current and also future, right? This is therefore, if their argument, if that the case, therefore this kind of a doctrine is really toxic, right? Why is that? Why is that so? Because the way all the benches cannot neglect the idea where people only live once. For example, the externalities happens, and the ability of the different is or the ability of people is different, are different, right? For example, there is people who have the capability in education and not have a for example, have resources in terms of money and so on and so forth, and someone is not, right? In some cases, there's people that cannot afford that, right? Therefore, if that the case, means that you for these people who have like different ability and so on and so forth, they need to first pay attention on how they can create like to enjoy them their life and also like have a, for example, self happiness oriented and whatsoever, right? Means that you need to give yourself a freedom, for example, or maybe like give yourself a freedom where you have the ability to, for example, Sarah, if you if to voice out when sometimes you feel feeling burden or maybe you angry towards as a responses of the externalities going on, right? In opposition benches, this thing is not in the end of the day, this thing will be toxic because the people will prevent this kind of emotion to be for example come out, right? The people will feel burdened that, oh, I cannot for example cannot for son of my emotion, therefore I will feel burdened, I will be sad whatsoever, right? Therefore they will sacrifice the ability of no the right of this kind of person to have the right to for example to share what the grievances that they are being through, right? And second of all, when this kind of karma exists in that case, means that the people will reluctant to seek for example, to have the ability to seek their personality or do the trial and error, because every good deeds, because people will be more oriented on how I do goods, therefore I have a better life or maybe better reincarnation in the future, right? Therefore, because sometimes you need to have like for example at least like bad intention whatsoever, but even if people in the very first place will get the bad intention, I think that is it is okay, right? Because people in the because you what makes human is that they have the, for example, ability to for example rational mind on how they will get how for them to be better in the future, for example, by they evaluate themselves because of the evaluate themselves. And the way this kind of trial and error only can manifest it well or better means that we cannot use karma as a doctrine or maybe as a construct of the one's morality, but instead, because as my member already told you on how like society punishment whatsoever can construct this kind of one's morality, because in the end of the day, the
harm or maybe like the sanction itself is really direct to the person, right? It on the at moment when the people when this person make mistake, therefore in the end of the day they can like evaluate what something wrong and then can be better because the sanction already there and they already know what kind of thing that they should improve and so on and so forth. Therefore, in our side of the house is if we not pay attention on or like use karma as our doctrine or construct our morality, I think that when the opposition side want to achieve like society betterment when we do good deeds, it only happen under the government closing government side of the house. Pay this explanation. Okay, POI.
Yes, please. Because we say that evaluation is accessed under opposition side because as bad things is more tangible in our side too. Because we already explained to you that CGS already failed systematically and religion might not be tangible. The outcome is not tangible as what this karma concept access.
If religion and also court system is not do not give like a tangible impact for these people who create mistake, therefore we want to instead of like we want to do the karma itself or believe in the karma karma doctrine itself, we want to evaluate this kind of broken like broken system, right? Because in the end of the day, something that exclusive which is within like religious or maybe CGS is because of the because this kind of standard is applied for all people, right? Even you are in the vulnerable condition or not, in the end of the day you have like the same compensation or like same punishment instead of karma when you only oriented on which is like unclear harm or whatsoever. Therefore we think that the current alternative solution for to make people good do good action will be still accessed under our side of house. Now, I will explain to you what is different under OG and also closing government. The OG only give to you the parameter on how, or only give you like the explanation on how in the end of the day people will do good. Therefore, they will bring a good impact to our society without their explaining on this is something that is also under closing government, where we at least explain to you on how society react on themselves and also the society or on the environment around them, which is on how they perceive gods and also they perceive their own happiness whatsoever. Now, under the closing government, why is that exclusive? My member explained to you on how in the end of the day, people, if these people do not that do not pay attention or not do not use this kind of karma doctrines in the end of the day, this kind of people can perceive their own happiness, where in the end of the day, these people don't need to feel burdened because the society standard of good deed. Why is this important? Means that you are the only person who can determine the happiness and also that can determine the future that you want, right? Without fulfilling the society standard which is toxic. Therefore, even the closing opposition when closing opposition want to bring like how the vulnerable people will be taken, it won't be happen in the South House because of the karma toxicity in the end of the day. Therefore, be proud to propose and grateful to speak in the grand final. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for that fine speech. To wrap up this debate, I would like to call opposition wave.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Want to check my laptop. Okay, am I audible? My POI preference just turned on your just unmute yourself because I'm not going to read the chat box, and then my POI preference just you can call me he or him. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We think that this debate is very clear when we're talking about how then this kinds of karma will impact or those kinds of people that have the good deeds, and also they want to compete in these kinds of things, right? But then the opening governments comes in the idea that it will make the other people are irrational and also unjustified at the end of the day, because there are some kinds of unprivileged people, and also opening oppositions report about it, but then they also cannot really clear to talk about these kinds of things. In our speech, in my first speakers, we have already told you on how that these kinds of things is really relatable on how that for the religion teachings at the very first place, right? Because why? Because the karma concept as a unique value that is exists. Talking about religions, it also contributes to be easier to do good thing that in the line of the interest of the religions. So that's why it can be support at the end of the day. But second of all, they one thing that religions become irrational and pressures because people contribute in these kinds of religion stigma, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that it's we as the CO is the one that proved to you on how that the religions is in line with the interest of karma exactly, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, I'm going to rebut some case that's coming from the closing governments. We talk about their worst case scenario. They talk about we talk about their worst case scenario, ladies and gentlemen, because when they talk about people stuck and suffer with, they talk about people will stuck and suffer because in this kind of idea, ladies and gentlemen, two responses for this. Number one, we think that people always suffer when they are being victim of the crime. When you are being injured, you are being suffer at the end of the day, right? But second of all, karma there to make people be patient, to make still patience, and it is good in our side of the house because we success to decrease the awareness at the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. If you imagine, if you are the victims, you will think that how can I survive in these kinds of things, right? And you have the intentions that karma is appear, that you need to be patient. But comparatively, in their side, they never prove to you on how that the awareness can be less at the end of the day because they never talk about the counter of how that the karma, if karma is not exist, then why then the world is going to be better at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We think that the closing government case in a worst case scenario is not exist and cannot be implemented. But second of all, they talk about their best case scenario. We will live happily. Two responses for this. Number one, we think that the problem still exists, that they cannot solve this kind of thing, even if you sacrifice yourself at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. But you need the intentions. That why then the karma exists? That is because when you do good things, people will do good things to you at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And you will never think that you are being sacrificed at the end of the day. Meanwhile, you are being think that you are invest the good things at the end of the day. And this kinds of thing is there in the karma at the end of the day, right? So we think that all these kinds of worst case and also the best case scenario coming from the closing government, it cannot be really engaged in these kinds of debate at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. But then let's talk about the OG. OG is totally fails in this debate. Why? Number one, they never engage our best scenario on how people will get reward at the end of the day. But number two, they never prove why there is no karma. People still compete and increase the intentions to do good things. But thirdly, they never say that if there is no karma, why then people can defend the bad things at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about the case of opening governments. Number one, they talk about have the standard that you need to do good things at the end of the day. Two responses for this. Why cannot do compete good things? Why we cannot do compete to do good things? They don't answer these kinds of things. But number two, not only that, because we want to prevent the bad things that is karma exists, right? But then these kinds of things really backlash on their kinds of the house because they talk. We don't say about the poor people because yeah, we know that karma exists, that you can do small things. But then in their all of the case, they talk about their unprivileged people that they cannot survive and they cannot do charity at the end of the day. So we think that their case of ear is totally backlash on how that the karma exists at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. But then they talk about the counterbalance. They talk about if there is no karma, natural human being is empathy. So that's why people will do good things. Two response. What makes sympathy is different with karma? A, sympathy based on the people intentions, and not all people are being sympathy to do the things, right? Because we cannot generalize all people will do good things because they are sympathy, ladies and gentlemen. But then B, why karma here? This is because not all people have this kinds of sympathy because there is a reward that all people can do, and people will compete to do these kinds of things because they will have the kinds of reward, ladies and gentlemen. And these kinds of rewards make people want to do good things at the end of the day, right? So why? So what is the good things at the end of the day? Why we win in this debate? Two response. We think that we have proved to you why motivation to do bad or good things can be appear from the religion exactly, ladies and gentlemen. But second of all, opening oppositions never prove to you what is the reward and why then all people want to achieve this kind of reward at the end of the day. We come close oppositions will still and we think that we can win this debate because why? Because we want to prove to you what is the reward, why people want to compete to the good things because of this karma. Simply because there is a tendency to enter to heaven, for example, because the portrayal of heaven is something all people want, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine when there's many angels, they're waiting for you in the heaven, and anything you can be easily earned, and God just saying you want these things to God, and you will get that kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you want that kinds of thing? We think that all people want that kind of thing. We think that all people want that kind of life, ladies and gentlemen. Even in government, will say it will not reality because they will never feel that, for example. Yes, but even if people will never go there, but in our side, they have the motivations to do good things and join the heaven, right? Comparatively, they will never happen in the government side of the house, ladies and gentlemen. So we think it's going to backlash at the end of the day. So why then it's going to be likely happens in our side of the house? We think that you cannot only say about the kinds of poor people what like what like closing governments has want to mention at the very first place, because all people can do good things, ladies and gentlemen. Not only say that, oh, we want to do good things because we want to help people. It's not necessarily means like that in karma, because you want to compete at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And these kinds of poor people will never can be injured, and there is no judgmental at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Because why? Because the karma exists to prevent you don't do that kinds of thing. You cannot judge people. This is what opening governments and closing governments really want to achieve, because there will be judgmental. You need to understand this karma happens because you never can do the judgmental, because if you do the judgmental, people will judge you anymore, ladies and gentlemen. People will always crimes with you, and people will always angry with you at the end of the day, right? So we think that because of these kinds of things, people will never do the judgmental, and it also can be achieved in the government side of the house. So that's why we thought to push this motion. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that fine speech. Now that concludes the grand final of today. And I would like to give, and also representing the panel of adjudicators, a virtual applause for all the grand finalists for performing very excellently throughout this debate. Right, so I would like to give back the floor to the ORCOM. Outcome ini deliberationnya di mana ya?